Hi guys, welcome back to Mer Murder, where we put the Mer in murder. I'm your host, Mercedes Rose, and I'm so grateful that you guys are here for another week. I don't really have any life updates or anything. Well, no, that's not true. My boyfriend and I, we are deciding to not eat out for the rest of the year. It is November 2nd today. I'm recording this on a Sunday. We're just deciding that we're not going to eat out for the rest of the year. We went to Korean barbecue last night. That was our last supper, our last meal to eat out. And oh my gosh, I really wanted crumble because this week's lineup was really good actually. It was like mid. It was like, all right. The only cookie I really wanted to try was the French toast cookie, and we did not make it. So if anybody had the crumble cookie, French toast cookie, tell me how it was. Actually, don't even tell me how it was because then I'm going to want to have it. I also said I'm not going to have any more sweet treats because my skin is getting ridiculous, so I really should not be having any more sweet treats. And on top of that, I have IBS. I know a lot of people that do watch and listen know me already, but if you don't know, I have IBS, and I don't have the cute little girly IBS where my stomach just hurts. I have the gut system of a Victorian child. Things just run through me. It's really bad. So I have to really pay attention and watch what I eat. It's not cute. It's not fun at all. And then speaking of food, those who relied on SNAP, their benefits are officially gone, taken away. So if you guys can, please take care of one another. If you know somebody that relies on those benefits, or if you just want to share and give back to your community, please go to your food pantries. Please look up organizations that can help you help out your community. Please do any and everything that you can. And yeah, we just gotta take care of each other. These are unprecedented times and we have to lock in now, okay? But yeah, I don't really have anything else really. Thank you guys so much for your love and support. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in every Wednesday, and we'll just get right into the show. So today we're bringing it back to Texas, and we will be covering the tragic family annihilation that occurred in 2021 in a city called Allen. The murders were carried out by two brothers, but not for the reasons that you think. Allen, Texas holds a population of a little over 113,000 people, and it's famous for a number of things. One of the most expensive high school football stadiums being Allen High School, and it was built for about $60 million. In today's time, that would be about $82 million, and that's for a high school stadium. It's also known for its scenic parks and trails, and most importantly, its safe and family-friendly communities. Some people would even refer to Allen as one of the safest cities to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So it was pretty hard to believe, and honestly shocking for some people to find out, that a family of 6 was found dead in their home, all from gunshot wounds. But before we get into that part of the story, let me take you back to where it all began. Before we get started, I would like to warn you guys that this story does contain serious topics such as suicide and heavy discussion of self-harm. If you are sensitive to these topics, you are more than welcome to choose another one of my episodes to listen to, but if you decide to continue, please do so with care. The Towhid family was known as a sweet, kind, loving, and caring family by those that had the opportunity to know them and grow up alongside them. A family that fit right into the community, Father Towhid Islam, or Sam as some of his friends referred to him as, and his wife Irene Islam, or Mila as some of her friends referred to her, were Bangladeshi immigrants who moved to the United States about what was 15 years ago in 2021. In hopes of a better life, the couple immigrated with their 3 children, eldest son Tanvir Towhid, and their twins Farhan and Farbin Towhid. The family originally immigrated to New York from Bangladesh before moving to the north suburb of Dallas, Allen. Towhid worked hard as a cybersecurity analyst to provide for his family, while his wife Irene tended to their home and cared for their children, ensuring a happy home life for their family. The family thrived, living their lives in the U.S. All 3 children attended and graduated Allen High School, and they were all extremely academically talented. The eldest son, Tanvir, was a smart young man who attended the University of Texas at Austin, or UT. He attended the Cockrell School of Engineering in Austin, Texas. Tanvir enrolled in 2017 for his freshman year, but unfortunately withdrew from college in the spring semester of his sophomore year in 2018 for reasons unknown. His younger brother, Farhan, followed in his footsteps soon after in 2020. He was accepted to UT Austin's College of Natural Sciences, where he majored in computer science. Farhan was excited to start this new chapter in his life, even though he did not have a huge passion for school, which inevitably, like his brother, led him to voluntarily withdraw from the college in the spring semester of January 2021. He eventually moved out of the residence hall on January 31st. Unlike her brothers, Farbin Towhid, Farhan's twin, was actually looking forward to college. Farbin excelled in her studies from her time as a little girl all the way through high school. She worked hard to achieve all her goals and was now excited to move away from home and experience life as a newly independent young woman. Irene and Towhid really wanted Farhan to pursue a path in engineering throughout her time in college, but after some convincing and ultimately just wanting their daughter to be happy, they allowed her to attend the NYU Tisch School of Arts in Lower Manhattan, New York, where in 2021, at 19 years old, she accepted a full-ride scholarship and studied film and television with a passion for animation. Although the Towhid family was very busy pursuing their own lives and at times felt so far away from each other, 8,000 miles away from their original home in Bangladesh and 1,500 miles away from their daughter in New York, this did not stop them from remaining close and keeping in contact with their friends and loved ones. At the time of this story, April of 2021, their 77-year-old mother/grandmother, Altafun Nessa, was actually visiting from Bangladesh. She had been visiting for a little over a month at this point, and she was helping care for the family, and she was scheduled to leave sometime in April, but her flight was canceled due to COVID-19 restrictions. However, Nessa did not have any problem staying home with the family and taking care of the house with Irene. She often spent her time catching up with people in the neighborhood and also hosting dinners with family friends as well. April 3rd, 2021 was a Saturday night like any other, or at least it was supposed to be. All family members of the Towhid family were home enjoying their weekend. Parents Towhid and Irene Islam, grandmother Altafun Nessa, and sister Farhan were all home when Tanvir, now 21, and Farhan, now 19, carried out a plan that would change the course of their lives and the lives of those who knew and loved them forever. On April 5th, 2021, around 1 a.m., Allen police were called to the Towhid residence in order to conduct a welfare check. 19-year-old Farhan Towhid made a concerning post on his Instagram page a couple nights before with a link to an 11-page letter. The first sentence of the letter read, quote, "Hey everyone, I killed myself and my family." Concerned friends of the young man alerted police and urged them to check on the teen, as they remembered in high school Farhan did struggle with mental health issues and had a history of depression. When police arrived at the scene, they discovered the bodies of all 6 family members dead, all with fatal gunshot wounds. Although officers found the family early Monday morning, they suspected their deaths actually occurred on Saturday night, and it did not take much time for the police officers investigating the crime to figure out what happened in the Towhid household, especially with the lengthy suicide note left by Farhan Towhid. Okay, so this is the part of the episode where suicide and self-harm will be heavily discussed, so if you guys are sensitive to that topic, I will leave a time code at the bottom of the screen right here where you guys can skip to the episode. If you're listening only, I'll put it in the description for where you can skip ahead so you don't have to hear those, but if you guys are staying, please, please, please listen with care. So I actually read the full 11 pages of the note left by Farhan Towhid, and it was not an easy read at all. Farhan goes into detail about his depression that started in 9th grade of 2016 that eventually led him to committing acts of self-harm, which he states he first started doing on August 22nd of 2017. He describes the gruesome details of the process and the relief he felt during it, and he says he became addicted to the feeling and that the number of times he self-harmed increased throughout high school and then drastically in his junior year. Farhan states in the letter, quote, "The need to cut leaked into the times I was at school. I can't count how many calculus quizzes I turned in blank because I was too busy in the bathroom cutting myself." Farhan then goes on to talk about how his 3 best friends dropped him after trying to help, but in his words, realized that it was too hard dealing with a depressed person and that it was a lot of work. He says he was angry at first, but in retrospect he thought, quote, "What else were they supposed to do?" Farhan continues, saying he hit his breaking point with his battle with depression in winter of that year. I believe it's now 2018 because if he was a freshman in 2016, he should be a junior in the winter of 2018. So this is now 2018, allegedly. Farhan states that he brought his mental health struggles up to his father, who, unlike most parents, especially parents of color, and trust me, I would know, Towhid actually took his struggles seriously. According to Farhan, his father, Towhid, quote, worked his ass off trying to get him the help that he needed. And this is actually one of the many reasons why I think what these brothers did to their family was so unfair, but we'll get into that later. Farhan was put into a teen mental health camp where he was diagnosed with depression and taught healthy coping mechanisms. He was also prescribed with 25 milligrams of desvenlafaxine, an antidepressant, which is more commonly known as Pristiq or Cadezla. This is where things seemed to get better for Farhan. He said in the second half of his junior year, he became, quote, cool, he lost weight, he stopped being, quote, cringy and awkward, and then followed his senior year, which he says was the best year of his life. He got a new group of friends, a girlfriend who he said was totally out of his league, and he became a programming god. Again, his words, not mine. And he also was accepted to UT Austin. He said he never really cared about school, but it felt good having something that others cared about. Farhan goes on to talk about college, how it was going to be a fresh start for him. he could finally start applying himself to his studies, get good grades, and quote, finally become normal. However, this is where Farhan begins to spiral. He goes on to talk about how hard it was for him to focus on school, how disinterested he was, and how all of this just really brought back his depression. He tried getting back into programming at one point in the winter break, and he actually linked the last project he ever worked on with his brother in the letter. It was a 3D graphic engine, and he put a link to go see it in his letter. But apparently back then, this still wasn't enough to bring him back. Farhan couldn't even fathom the idea of happiness, he says. After the winter break and returning to school, a suite mate of Farhan's noticed that he was struggling and offered to talk to him about what he was going through. Now, in the letter, Farhan says, and this hasn't been proved anywhere, but Farhan says in the letter that he did tell his suite mate everything. He says, quote, he told him one thing that he would reveal in a bit that actually haunted his suite mate and was the reason that he was kicked out of the dorm a few weeks later. Now, we can obviously only assume that he was alluding to the idea that he was going to harm himself and his family, but this is disproven as there were never reports made to the authorities on campus, and Farhan voluntarily disenrolled and left the campus. This next part of the letter is where things get even more odd. Farhan explains that after dropping out of college, he moves back home with his family and begins spending more time with his brother. He says, quote, I spent the first few weeks of being a dropout by just watching shows with my older brother. If you think my situation was effed, his was much worse. This dude is a effing genius, but is too depressed and socially anxious to do anything with it. He had to go through the same stuff I did, except by himself. I would have killed myself a long time ago if he weren't here. Following this statement, Farhan goes into a tangent for the next few paragraphs, oddly, about the show The Office. He goes on about how the show should have ended when Michael Scott left, and he honestly just has a lot of opinions about The Office. If you're not familiar with The Office, it's a documentary-style comedy sitcom, and it's centered around employees at a paper company. I don't think anyone who's ever watched the show would ever think that someone would bring it up in their suicide note, at least not in this way and not of this much importance. Like, he goes on a few times and brings up The Office like a few times in the letter. It's very, very odd. But at the end of his tangent on the show's shortcomings, he states that on February 21st, 2021, his brother Tanvir came to him with a proposition. He said, quote, if we can't fix everything in a year, we'll kill ourselves and our family. Farhan then goes on to describe a hypothetical situation where he brings up being tortured and being forced to watch season 9 of The Office. Again, he brings up the show. I'm not really sure why it was so important. I honestly did not watch The Office. I've seen clips. I do think it's funny. The clips that I have seen, it is pretty funny. I don't know why this was I think this kind of shows how mentally unstable he was and just where his mind was at, because I think someone who's about to kill themselves and their family shouldn't really be thinking about The Office right now. But again, he's very mentally unstable, so I don't know. But he says that he's been living in such pain and things may not be bad as that situation, that hypothetical situation, but still bad enough to warrant suicide. Farhan says he is aware the sadness his actions will bring to the people who love him, but he is too selfish to care. But he's also not selfish enough, which is why he and Tanvir think they should take out their family as well, as to prevent them from living with the pain of their deaths, to prevent them from living with the guilt and despair and, quote, a multitude of adjectives. He says his family is the reason why he forced himself to live for the past 19 years, and that he genuinely does love his family, and that's why he decided to kill them. He said he was doing it to, quote, just do them a favor and take them with me. In the last few paragraphs of the letter, Farhan says that he and Tanvir really did try for a little bit to make improvements in their life. Farhan increased his dose of medication, and he was also diagnosed with ADHD, but he said that they, quote, realized they were just biding their time. Waiting a year was too long, they thought. Why not just wait a month? He says the plan was simple, and thanks to poor gun control, it was easy for his brother Tanvir to get the weapons. On what was supposed to be a quiet and peaceful night in their Allen suburb, on April 3rd, 2021, Farhan Towhid retrieved one of the guns his brother purchased. He shot and killed his 19-year-old twin sister, Farbin Towhid. He then went to find his 77-year-old grandmother, Altifun Nessa, where he shot and killed her as well. At the same time as the first two murders, Tanvir Towhid shot and killed his mother, Irene Islam, who was 56 years old, and then shot and killed his father, Tawhidul Islam, who was 54. After shooting and killing their entire family in their home, the two brothers followed out with the last part of their suicide pact and turned the guns on themselves. After finding the bodies, autopsies were performed on the Towhid brothers, and their autopsies, in my opinion, were very shocking, just as shocking as the crimes. Tanvir Towhid, the oldest brother, was found in a black short-sleeved shirt and multicolored plaid pajama pants. He died from a singular gunshot wound to the head, specifically to his right temple. Tanvir's manner of death was ruled as a suicide. Farhan Towhid, the younger brother, was found in a maroon short-sleeved shirt, tan pants with a black belt, and he had earbuds in his ears. He had multiple tan linear scars on his left arm, which we can assume was from the self-harm. And Farhan died from 2 gunshot wounds to the head, one to the left side of his head at his temple, and the other to the left side of his jaw, both at close range. His manner of death was determined to be a homicide, meaning that Tanvir was the one who shot and killed Farhan, and their original plan to commit suicide together was not what happened. After gathering all information, officials announced the deaths of the Towhid family, sending waves of shock and grief all throughout the community. A family friend told local news that when he received the news, he couldn't breathe for about 20 to 30 minutes. He said, quote, "How could this happen in a community like us? We're so close and we visit each other and talk to each other." Another neighbor told news, quote, "We just can't believe it happened to this family. They were always jolly and talking." On April 7th of 2021, over 100 people attended the candlelight vigil for the Towhid family at Celebration Park in Allen, Texas. Many were overcome with grief and sadness as they honored the beautiful family. One of Farhan's friends, the younger Towhid brother, stated to local news outlets that his, quote, "depression was not a product of his environment, that he was just unfortunately not genetically lucky like most of us." The day before this vigil, on April 6, all the way in New York, a vigil was being held for Farhan at Washington Square Arch at Washington Square Park in Manhattan. Dozens of NYU students gathered there to pay their respects to Farhan and grieve together. The family was laid to rest on April 8, 2021 in the Denton Muslim Cemetery in Crum, Texas. The Towhid brothers made a very selfish and unjustifiable decision to take their families' lives because of the pain that they were feeling. And they had no right putting a time frame on the lives of the people that they allegedly cared so deeply for, unbeknownst to them. Their parents and sister loved them and did everything they could to care for them and let them know that they were seen and heard and that they weren't alone in their pain. But that just wasn't enough for Tanvir and Farhan. As we wrap up this case, I would like for us to take a moment and remember the victims for who they were and not just their unfortunate and untimely ends. Irene and Towhid were amazing, caring, kind, and loving parents who made every sacrifice to ensure their family would thrive emotionally, mentally, and physically. And they did whatever it took to make sure their children had the lives that they dreamt of. Farhan Towhid was remembered by all as a source of illumination. Her friends at NYU says her presence lit up a room, her energy was infectious, and her smile was unforgettable. It's more than unfortunate that this family was taken so selfishly and so soon, but I hope that they did not live their last moments in fear or in pain. Now, before we get into the next part of the show, I just want to leave you guys all with a few resources for you or anyone that you know and love that might be going through a hard time. Please remember that nothing in life is permanent besides death. Things can and will always get better. To reach the National Suicide, Crisis, and Self-Harm Hotline, you can call or text 988. For the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, you can call 800-273-8255. And for the crisis text line, you can text TALK to 741-741 to reach a trained crisis counselor about your mental health struggles. And with that comes the end of this week's case of the Towhid family and their unfortunate ends at the hands of Tanvir and Farhan Towhid. So now we're at the part of the show where usually we talk about the police/investigators or the judge/jury, and then we give them a rating on how they handled the case. But obviously in this case, there were no arrests, there were no sentencings, there was nothing that really could have been done for this family, no justice that could have been given, which is very, very unfortunate, and I do wish it was different. But I would like to acknowledge that it must be very, very hard for people to be first responders. Being a first responder is something that is really hard. You never know what you can walk into and what you might have to deal with when you go into work every day. They were called to do a welfare check to the Towhid household, and they found 6 dead bodies. Like, that is so much to take in and so much to see. I was a kid on the internet unsupervised. I've seen some crazy stuff. I'm not going to lie to you. And being in true crime, and just if you're really on it and really early to some things, you will see some crazy pictures and videos. So I've already seen crazy things, and I'm no trained professional. And I just think like a lot of these people, a lot of first responders are just normal people. They're just normal everyday people. They might have some training and counseling that they can get before they get into their place of work. But my heart really breaks for first responders sometimes because I don't know how they can be in there. It's one thing to see things online, see photos, see videos, but to walk in, smell the crime scene, to see the carnage, it's just like, that's a lot. So I feel terrible for everyone that was involved. I feel terrible for the family. I feel terrible for the first responders. I feel terrible for the community. I feel so bad for everyone. So everyone gets a gold star today. All first responders, the community, nobody did anything wrong. This was all truly just the fault of the killers. And I also kind of hate to call them the killers because I know they were struggling mentally. Mental health is not a joke. It really does make people go crazy and do insane things, but they had all the resources. Like Tanvir and Farhan were given help. And like I said before, trust me, I would know, like a lot of adults, especially if you come from a background of color, especially if you come from immigrant family, like they do not take mental health as seriously as they should. It's like, oh, you're depressed, go depress them dishes. How could you be depressed when you have a roof over your head and you have food to eat every day and you have a bed to lay on? Like, it's so much more than just having your bare minimum necessities, and you really do just have to take care of one another. But Farhan went to his dad and said, hey, I'm struggling. And his dad said, I will help you. So for you to go out of your way to be like, you know what? He did really care and love me. And I'm not only going to take myself out, but I'm going to take him out too. Like your whole family, like they did their job. So that all they had to do was grieve. And then I honestly think they would have been fine. Like not fine, but I think that they would have been able to grieve. But the hardest part that a lot of people cannot deal with when someone commits suicide that they cared about was not being able to help or do enough or feeling like you didn't do enough. They did enough. He literally said in the letter that his dad worked his ass off to make sure that he was going to be okay. And then while you were struggling again, you got more medication, you got more help, you were diagnosed with ADHD. Like they did everything that they were supposed to do as parents. And that's so much that you should be grateful for, especially when your parents are immigrants and parents of color. Like, I won't even get into all that, but they genuinely did everything that they were supposed to. And I also read somewhere in an article that Farhan's twin, she actually was having a bit of a hard time too, and she struggled with mental health a little bit. And I guess one day her friend was trying to check on her and she kind of just brushed her off or wasn't having the best of days. And then she went and baked her friend a cake and was like, I'm so sorry. I'm just struggling. I'm having a hard time with my mental health. And like, she would apologize and went out of her way to be nice to someone. Like, she was a very sweet girl, and she just didn't deserve that either. Like, she also was struggling. So maybe if you didn't invest so much time and energy into thinking about only yourself, you would have seen that your sister was also struggling and you guys could have been together and coped together and learned to just grow and heal together. Like, things could have been so different, but I digress. Things could have been different. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. We're here now. They aren't. And that is so extremely unfortunate. And I really do wish things were different because nobody deserves that pain. And nobody deserves the pain of struggling mentally. Nobody deserves the pain of losing someone that was struggling mentally. But I really do feel so horrible that they decided to make that decision and take their family with them, because they should have been here. They had bright futures. They worked for the lives that they wanted, and they should have been able to keep living that. All right, guys, our sources for this week's case have been All Things Interesting, CBS News, gunviolencememorial.org, kvue.com, nbcdfw.com, newhbd.net, nyunews.com, scribe.com, and thewashingtonpost.com. Okay, guys, that is the end of this week's episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in again. You can follow the podcast on all platforms, all listening platforms. There's actually a lot that I didn't even know existed, but we are on there. Just look for Mer Murder. You can tune in every Wednesday. Please don't forget to interact with the show. Please follow me, like, comment. I have a YouTube, so please subscribe, like, comment, all that jazz. Please give me ratings. I really want to boost the show and get to as many people as possible. Please, if I'm asking for too much, let me know, but please, I just want to do really good. Yeah, don't forget that the show has an Instagram and a TikTok. You can follow me. I'll put the links in all my bios, all my descriptions, and on the screen right now if you're watching. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this week's case. I do know that it was a downer. I do hate doing cases where we talk about people struggling, and honestly, true crime is never fun. It's never fun, but it is always interesting, and I really hope that we can all take from it and learn something from it and just take care of each other, learn from each other's mistakes, and please please take care of yourselves. You are so important. You are so loved. Even if you don't feel like it, there is someone out there for you, no matter what. I want you guys to always know that if you're struggling, you can come to someone. If you can't come to me, you can come to somebody, honey, because you are so extremely loved and important, and you were put on this earth for a reason. You belong here. And not only do I love you, but there are lots of people around in your life that do truly love you. So please do not go anywhere but here, okay? And that is the end of the show. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Again, please interact with the show. Please follow, please like, please rate, comment, subscribe, do it all. Please, please, please. And I love you guys all so much. Please don't forget that you're important and that I love you so much. And there are lots of people in the world that love you. Please take care of yourselves. And I can't wait to see you guys next Wednesday as we put more Mer in Murder. I'll see you guys. Bye.